Hello, welcome back. Welcome to the channel, Hollowponds Solo Sagas. As we play solo games on this channel, well I do, solo, I thought for a change I would do something different. Instead of playing a game, I'm going to give you some hints and tips on solo play. So today we are going to do 3 tips on playing solo. So thank you very much for being here. If you're a subscriber, thank you for subscribing. If you're not a subscriber, please could you subscribe? And thank you to our members. So I've not been asked lots, but a few times people have asked about reviews or tips on solo playing or some advice. And so what I decided to do for a change, so this may be sort of an irregular series of bits on these are all my own thoughts. I'm not professing to be any expert in anything. This is just something I have been doing for quite a while now, and I have some opinions, and so these are just 3 sort of generalized tips at this point, and I will do some others at another stage. So for the first time ever, I actually have some sort of notes to work from, because I don't know, everything is normally ad lib, but this is partially going to ad lib. So the first point, I think if you're going to play solo, the first thing you should do is think, why are you playing? What are you hoping to get out of playing? So do you just want to play a game and roll some dice, and it just so happens that a role-playing game is your favour of choice? Do you want to tell a story? Do you have a story you want to tell, and you want to express your creativity, and role-playing is that avenue? Are you a frustrated amateur dramatics type person? Did you used to role play in the past with a group and you just can't get a group together, or you role play now in a group but there's a specific game that your group doesn't want to play but you really want to play it? Is that the reason that you're doing it? Because there's also, it may be you used to play a game. So I used to play Cyberpunk 2020, and I used to play the Ghostbusters role-playing game, and I'm planning to solo both of those because of nostalgia. But both of those I want to solo for nostalgia and tell a story like I used to, because I used to run both games as a DM. So I want to run them as a DM and I want to tell a story like DMs want to tell. Or are you a DM, a games master, and you've got a new game and you want to see how it works, and you want to see how it plays and what the mechanics likes? Think about why you're doing it, because why you're playing certain tilts towards some certain factors. So if you just want to play a game and roll some dice, or you are going through trying to learn the rules and trying to learn how to play so you can run for another group, then the way you would approach the game is slightly different. So for example, in that way, there seems to be some kind of badge of honor among a lot of solo role players, how many times they kill their own character. Now, some of that is okay if you're just wanting to play a game and roll some dice, or basically play a solo skirmish game, or you're trying to learn the rules and see how the mechanics works for the game. Then killing off your own characters is fine, because that's part of learning. The more that you kill off, the more you work out how healing works, how this works, how spells work, various things. It's just going through. But if you're doing it because you used to roleplay and you want to roleplay again but you can't get a group, or if you have a story to tell, killing off your character that often isn't that good an idea, if you ask me. What you've got to be is you've got to be kind to yourself. And so if you kill yourself off every 5 minutes, you can't tell a story, not a coherent story. If you were a player and your DM killed you every 5 minutes, you'd start to get really annoyed. You wouldn't want to play anymore. I've had that in the past, way back. I used to play at a YMCA within London, near Walthamstow, and we had a DM, Pat. We spent 3 or 4 hours rolling Pendragon characters, and he killed all of us off in about 45 minutes. We had exactly the same thing with this bloke. We played, I can't remember what the Vietnam game was called, but I think it was called Nam. We spent ages rolling characters. It used the Palladium system. Recon, it was called Recon. We spent ages rolling characters. Again, slaughtered a lot of us. And in the end, nobody wanted to play in one of Pat's games. No one wanted to know because he just killed them all. You've got to be kind to yourself. Killing yourself off is no advantage whatsoever. You wouldn't want to play. I mean, if the time comes, fine. In the Starforge series, one of my first series that I put out, Aya reached their ending. It was their end of their story, rather than just killing them off for the sake of it or making life really hard for them. And you don't have to, on that as well, just because you're playing, do I say this? Just because you're, sorry, I'll cut that little bit. Just because you're the DM and the player, don't think, you can't go light on yourself. Just treat it that way. But yeah, and Harmug, I loved the character of Harmug within Morkborg, but he reached the end. He reached the end of the story. Like that was a natural conclusion to Harmug's character. So be kind to yourself. Think while you're playing. If you're playing to tell a story, tell the story. If you're playing just to roll some dice, then fine, just roll some dice. That's fine. But try to think of it that way. And off the back of that, there's the second bit. I don't know if this is going to make any sense, if this is coherent. Off the back of that, the second bit is get used to being the DM and the player. It's kind of like a split. You've got to split your personality. And you'll see this in the stuff that I released. It will be a couple of weeks ago. For Quackbane, I think it was maybe even the last episode of Quackbane, and Pirateborg. I switch between the two roles and I make a point of declaring it. And if you watch when I'm running, like playing a game, I'm switching between being a DM and a player. The DM knows stuff, so I know stuff about the story and I know what's going to be happening and I can guess what's going to happen. But my player, who is also me, doesn't know that stuff and doesn't know what to expect. So you have to kind of switch between the two. And part of that, and getting off the back of the last bit, is don't be overly mean. You don't have to be overly kind to yourself either, but don't be overly mean. Most people sort of lean the dial heavily on the, being mean, not giving off opportunities, not giving chances, because they don't want to feel as though they're leaning too close to the being too kind. And so they overcompensate. Using the dice as a guide to the story, fine. Interpreting what's going, fine. If the dice come up bad for your player, fine. But if you don't like what the dice have come up for, because it's not going to tell the story that you're hoping to tell, I mean, you can see the way sometimes I guide, particularly the Call of Cthulhu ones, I have an idea for what I want to happen and then I chase it down. Now, sometimes it doesn't work out that way. The last Call of Cthulhu free play in the village with the ritual, the ending part I was not expecting at all within that bit. The character, I can't remember his name, he survived and there are no thoughts. I thought he was going to get sacrificed, but the dice came up the way the dice came up, so I tell the story. But I wasn't being overly mean or only overly generous. I'm just trying to tell the story. So you don't have to take the dice rolls just because they come up. There is no solo game police that are going to come banging on your door and kicking your door down and dragging you away because you decide not to take the dice roll and instead to do something else. Or you roll the dice, then you go, actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something else instead. In combat, fine. Like, don't take silly risks just because you're the DM. Don't take silly risks. You're still playing a game. But in other aspects of the story, be kind to yourself and interpret the roles, your oracle roles and your roles of the oracle towards your story as the DM. You're the DM guiding the player. If the player just so happens that, and if you're not too sure what to do, you can use oracle roles, you can use GM Emulator or various other things. I can go through how to use GM Emulator in another one. I'm not completely au fait with it, but I'm getting to grips with it. and you can interpret those, but interpret those the way you want with your story, because you are the DM and you're the player. Just switch between the two roles constantly. You're never both roles at the same time. You're always one or the other. Just work out what you are at that point in time and perceive what you're doing based on that. And I'm very story orientated. I'm a storyteller, so to tell the story you want to tell. And finally, in this little bit, the third key. These were just the three that came to my head as the three most important things. The third most important thing, I think, is keep a journal for your story. It's good for whether it's written, whether it's audio, whether it's video like this. Talk to your player, talk to the air as though you're telling a story, because it's going to make it much, much easier to enjoy. Back to the first point, if you're just trying to learn the rules and you just want to roll some dice, then fine. Don't worry about it. You can do that. But it's the same with that bit, because it makes it much easier when you're telling the story and you're having that. For me, anyway, this is advice, of course, from me. It makes it much easier for me. Having the camera here makes it easier, because way back, so like at this point, when I first started, so I potted a bit with solo stuff years and years ago, but I didn't realise I was solo role playing. And then I wanted to start playing again, and it was a year and a bit ago, a year and a half ago. And so I found out about it and all the tools, and I started to play solo games, but I wasn't recording at the time. And if you could go back to the beginning, you'll see that right at the start, I'm saying I don't expect anyone's ever going to see this, because I was just talking to the camera, because it made it easier for me to speak to a camera than it did just to talk openly to the air. So recording the journal this way is my favourite. It's also, I have ADHD, and my handwriting isn't great, and so keeping a written journal, my thoughts go faster than I can write them, and so I can't do it that way. I could do audio, so when I did stand up in 2022, I audio recorded all of my gigs, and so that can work as well. But video is nicer, because you can also show the things you've got on the table. If you're going to do sort of skirmishes and stuff, video works quite well. But keeping a journal is a good idea. Also, part of keeping a journal, and I think like as a sort of a little bonusy bit around that telling stories and stuff, is if you're going to solo, you're in a room by yourself. So most solo role players, I don't solo role play with somebody else in the room. I'm on my own. So I don't have to show everything I do, which means if you're unsure of certain things, test them in this circumstance. Play these things out. You can use it as therapy as well. You can do it as therapy, and you can try and push things outside your normal bounds and try stories that are slightly different. Like I did the Jane Austen story, the Good Society. Completely out of the games I would normally play. But I really enjoyed it, and I found it quite interesting, to change the way I'm thinking about things. And try doing that would be a little bit of bonus advice. Try pushing yourself outside your normal realms of either the literature you read, or the things that you watch, or the stories that you would normally tell. Push yourself out of those and try exploring that aspect of storytelling. And that's about it, really. That's just three rough thought out things where only when I started talking I realised I should have really thought about it a bit more. Thank you very much. If you watched this and this was helpful, do let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to be a subscriber, please subscribe. If you are a subscriber, don't unsubscribe just because I did this, please. I do apologise. I'll never do one again if you tell me not to. Thank you very much to our members, and I will see you again soon, but I'll actually play games that time. And if you do want another one of these on a specific topic, put it down and I'll try and come up with something, a little short 10-minute, 15-minute thing. See ya.